Nearly a decade ago, researcher Catherine Cox conducted a fascinating study. She studied 300 of history's greatest minds. These minds came from various disciplines, yet there was one common denominator found among them. Each kept some kind of journal. While journaling is a very beneficial practice, as illustrated by this study, spiritual journaling has added benefits due to its spiritual focus. Journaling as a spiritual discipline helps us to build an authentic relationship with God. It's a great barometer of our hearts. It's a place for us to record spiritual thoughts, insights, realizations. It helps to make our thoughts, our prayers more concrete. It helps to provide focus for us as we spend our time in scripture study or considering our spiritual journey or in prayer if we're using a prayer journal. It helps us to carve out time and make sure we're observing time for these spiritual disciplines as we sit down to journal them. It's a place for us to listen. Sometimes we get so busy that we don't hear God, and as we sit down to journal, it gives us that time to sit in silence and in quiet, away from the distractions of the day, to hear what God is speaking to us. It helps us to become more intimate with God, and it's a great record of our spiritual growth for us as we're recording, or later on as we pull old journals out and read through them. We can see how we have grown, and it's great to leave for our loved ones as they discover our journals later on and have our own handwriting and get to see some insights into where we were with God at different times in our life. Journaling is definitely a discipline of great value, but let me take you back to the study we discussed at the beginning. Did you pick up on the fact that each of these 300 great minds kept a journal of some kind or another? Now, while these 300 great minds from history come from all walks of life, I'm sure that part of that is that some of them kept journals that were not spiritually focused, while others, I'm sure, kept journals that were spiritually focused. But I also think that that can mean the format of the journal had a different type. Not everyone, I'm sure, kept the same type of journal as everyone else. Generally, when we think of journaling, or we hear that term, journaling, we think of a blank notebook and a pen and someone sitting off in a quiet place just writing their heart out. Every thought that comes to mind is just going down on that piece of paper. And while that is a draw and something that some people love, some personalities are just drawn to that kind of thing, others are not. It may be that someone has flashbacks to elementary school journaling in the fact that they had to write for a certain amount of time and keep that pen going, and someone was going to read it, whether or not it was for a grade, just to think that somebody was reading their thoughts. That can be a hindrance for some of us, not to get all excited about journaling when we hear it talked about as a spiritual discipline. Some of us have difficulties just with the act of handwriting. I know I have a hard time sitting down and writing out lengthy things anymore. With technology, I type everything, and so sometimes it's just difficult for me to want to sit down and write for a long time. Some people have health issues that just cause that handwriting act to be painful for them. And then some of us are just distracted souls. It's hard for us to sit down and do a discipline that requires focus and sitting. Our minds wander. We keep thinking about what we need to do. We're jumping up and down, taking care of things that come to our mind, and we just have trouble staying focused. So what I'd like to do in this series over the next couple of episodes is just explore some types of spiritual journaling that break away from that traditional model of paper and pen that we normally think about, and give you some ideas of some ways that you can engage in this very, very beneficial practice in a way that might connect with you and actually draw you into it and make you want to sit down and journal.